Well, thank you, Kevin, and it is a huge privilege to address this conference as Foreign Secretary of our United Kingdom. And to be frank with you, with everything else that's going on at the moment, the Foreign Office is rather relieved not to have to be adding Scotland to its list of responsibilities. Let me start by introducing my fantastic Foreign Office ministerial team. David Liddington, Hugo Swire, Tobias Elwood, James Duddridge, in the House of Lords, Joyce Ainley, Ian Livingston, and our Whip, Anne Milton. Our indispensable PPSs, Damien Collins, Alex Shelbrook, and David Rutley. Please give them a big round of applause. And I can tell you that I have inherited a Foreign Office in great shape, with new missions flying the Union flag across the world, ministers visiting countries from Australia to Somalia that Labour had forgotten even existed, the language school that Labour axed reopened, and their invidious culture of mediocrity replaced once again by diplomatic excellence. And all of that is due, in no small part, to the commitment and the determination of the man who will surely go down as one of the truly great British Foreign Secretaries, William Hague. People rightly credit William with many exceptional qualities. And I have to say, looking back over what's happened this summer, I'm beginning to wonder if he's clairvoyant too. He is a very hard act to follow, and I have to tell you, I take some small comfort in the knowledge that there is just one thing I have that William doesn't. He has left our country a fantastic legacy, and I am determined that we will build on it. I've told our diplomats that it might be called the Foreign Office, but I want them to think of it as the British Office, because their job is to bat for Britain, protecting our security, standing up for our values, and pursuing our prosperity, playing a vital role in the Conservative plan to secure a better future for Britain. And by the way, that includes securing the future of Britain's overseas territories. Because with a Conservative government, there will be no sellouts, no backroom deals, no betrayals of Gibraltar or the Falkland Islands. We will defend their right to remain proudly British for as long as that is their wish. In this uncertain and dangerous world, Conservatives never forget that the first duty of government is securing our nation from external threats. And over the course of this summer, we have seen our national security challenged on multiple fronts. Russia's aggression in Ukraine, the barbarity of ISIL, civil war in Syria, crisis in Libya, conflict in Gaza, and Ebola in West Africa. We Conservatives know that we cannot simply wish these problems away. We cannot turn our backs on the world. When disaster strikes, we have the compassion to act. When our values are threatened, we have the confidence to stand firm. And when evil rears its head, we have the courage to confront it. And nowhere is that courage going to be needed more than in confronting ISIL. With their twisted ideology, their brutal regime of beheadings, rapes and murders, they are the antithesis of everything we stand for. And left unchecked, they would transform swathes of territory into a haven for international terrorism, a threat to millions of people in the Middle East, Muslims, Christians, Yazidis alike, as well as our own citizens at home and abroad, an affront to humanity that we must defeat. Now, Britain is one of the world's major military powers, and we could not, in all conscience, stand by as American, French, Jordanian and Emirati pilots confronted this menace while we looked the other way. It is right that Britain shoulders its share of the burden in the great coalition of nations that has come together to defeat the menace of ISIL, and we should be proud that we are doing so. So let us salute the bravery of our armed forces who once again are putting themselves in harm's way in the interest of the nation. Of course, it's about more than airstrikes. Our strategy is comprehensive. Political reform in Iraq, humanitarian aid for the displaced, weapons for the Kurds, and a concerted international effort to cut off ISIL's funding, disrupt the flow of foreign fighters, and deal with jihadis attempting to return to these shores. ISIL can and must be driven out of Iraq. And in Syria, we will continue to support the moderate opposition who are bravely taking on ISIL as well as Assad. But they cannot win this fight alone. So we are backing the coalition's airstrikes in Syria, clear that the way to peace in Syria lies in the defeat of ISIL, the removal of Assad, and a negotiated political settlement. And to those who say that to defeat ISIL, we must do a deal with Assad, I say you are mistaken. It was Assad's brutal war against his own people that allowed ISIL to take root. Assad is the problem, and he cannot be part of the solution. A few hundred miles to the north, we face a very different challenge. For decades, Britain stood firm in the face of the nuclear threat from the Soviet Union, shoulder to shoulder with our American allies until we achieved the triumph of freedom over communism. And in the 25 years since that victory, we have extended the hand of friendship to Russia, offering investment, trade, and partnership. But by his illegal annexation of Crimea, by supplying the missile that murdered 298 innocent people on flight MH17, and by sending Russian troops into eastern Ukraine, Putin has torn up the rulebook and chosen the path of confrontation. And we should be proud that Britain has led the way in securing far-reaching sanctions, sending the message that Russia's illegal behaviour will not be tolerated. And neither will we allow our NATO allies in Eastern Europe to be bullied. Let me remind Mr. Putin that a threat to any NATO member will get a response from us all. That's why we sent our Typhoon jets to the Baltic earlier this year, and we'll do it again if we need to. Because NATO and its principle of collective self-defence protected us through the dark years of the Cold War, and it will remain the cornerstone of our defence policy today and going forward. Serious though these challenges are, and right as it is that our national security should be the #1 priority, our foreign policy must also support our long-term economic plan and protect our national sovereignty. Under this government, our embassies around the world have a clear mission to break open markets, attract new investment, boost British business, create British jobs. And it's working. Our worldwide exports are up 28% since 2009. But nowhere is the need to secure our future prosperity and to protect our national sovereignty clearer than in negotiating a new settlement for Britain in Europe. Nearly 4 decades ago, like millions of others in Britain, I cast my vote, my first ever vote, in favour of our membership of the common market. And like millions of others in Britain, I have watched aghast as that common market has morphed into an institution with the aspirations of a superstate, pushing ever closer union, imposing red tape and regulation, hoovering up powers that properly belong to the nation states. That is not what I voted for in 1975. It's not what the British people signed up to, and it's not the way to build a dynamic and competitive Europe of cooperating nation states. So reform there must be. And I'll be perfectly frank with you, I've always been prepared for the possibility that Britain would be alone in arguing for it. Margaret Thatcher used to say, there's no shame in being in a minority of one, so long as you're right and all the others are wrong. But the fact is, we're not on our own anymore. Slowly but surely, the others are coming round to the need for change. And to those who say it will never happen, I say, under this government, it has already started. After 13 years of Labour surrendering sovereignty to Brussels, signing away power after power in treaty after treaty, casually giving up £7 billion of the rebate so hard won by Mrs. Thatcher, for the first time, by standing firm and making the arguments, we've started to reverse that trend. David Cameron secured the first ever cut in the EU budget. We've got Britain out of Eurozone bailouts, delivered the biggest reform ever of the common fisheries policy, introduced a referendum lock against more powers going to Brussels, vetoed the creation of an EU military headquarters, and we've done all that in coalition with the most Brussels-loving bunch of Europhiles you could ever wish to meet. Just think what a proper Conservative government could do. As I've visited over the last 10 weeks EU capitals and met my European counterparts, it's clear that the penny is finally dropping. Reform has to happen because the current system, quite simply, has run out of road. They know that the EU will be weaker without Britain, and so they understand that reform must address the British demands set out in the Prime Minister's Bloomberg speech, because our referendum pledge means that reform has to be substantial, it has to be irreversible, and it has to satisfy the British people. So my political priority between now and next May is to lay the groundwork, to marshal our forces and build up our battle plan, to persuade, cajole and convince every single EU member of the need for change and change that works for Britain, so that when we wake up with a Conservative government on May the 8th next year, we will already be in pole position to get the best deal for Britain in Europe. Our goal is clear: a Europe where powers flow from Brussels back to nation states, not the other way round. A Europe of free movement, not free loading. A Europe of cooperating nations, not a European superstate. A Europe of open markets and free trade agreements with the world beyond. A Europe that can outcompete the best in the world without red tape and regulation weighing it down. But most of all, a Europe on which the British people have had their say. Because when it comes to the election next year, there will be a clear choice. An in-out referendum in 2017 with David Cameron, or no say under Ed Miliband and Labour. We Conservatives trust the people, and only we, the Conservatives, will deliver that referendum. No ifs, no buts. So whether it's European bureaucracy, Russian aggression, Islamist extremism or Syrian civil war, we have a plan in place to deal with the threats to our competitiveness, our security and our sovereignty today, and to build a better future for Britain tomorrow. After 4 years of Conservative government, we have a success story which we should tell with pride. Britain is once again an outward-looking, self-confident nation, building economic success at home and walking tall abroad. With our partners around the world, we will defeat the threat from ISIL. We will stand up for democracy in Ukraine. And as a Conservative government, we will deliver that referendum. So when it comes to May the 7th next year, the choice will be stark. Ed Miliband and Labour offering a bigger deficit, a weaker economy, a shrinking international presence, and no say on Europe, or David Cameron and the Conservatives delivering growth, jobs, a stronger Britain, and that vital in-out referendum. Conference, our message is clear. Britain cannot afford 5 more minutes, let alone 5 more years of Labour. Only the Conservatives will secure a better future for Britain. Thank you.